Good evening. I am Senator Gloria Butler, and I am the Democratic leader of the Georgia State Senate. I begin by wishing you, everyone, a Happy New Year. Each new year opens with promise, and 2021 is no different. Last year tested us in ways most of us have never experienced in our lifetime. At times, it brought our state and country to the brink. The deadly COVID virus took the lives of thousands of family members and friends, wreaked financial disaster on our communities, devastated our economy, and shuttered businesses. The overlay of the 2020 elections heightened fear and added a layer of vitriol that tested the seams of democracy. 2021 ushers in the promise of change that will help us stand back up as families, as a state, and as a nation. Georgia has been at the forefront of national change. Cheers have gone up all around the country to celebrate the victories of U.S. Senators Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff. Not only will their victories improve the lives of Georgians, but they will help herald in the changes at the national level to ensure equity for all. I am proud to live in Georgia and to serve this great state with my colleagues. They share my commitment to improving the lives of our fellow citizens, along with a vision of what Georgia can and should become. I agree with Governor Kemp when he says we are deeply grateful to our frontline healthcare workers. They have been challenged in every way possible and yet stood strong for all of us. But I believe there is far more we could do to help ensure the good health of Georgians, create better pathways to distribute the vaccine, and to rebuild our state. For Democrats, transparency and equity sit atop every policy initiative we introduce. You see, we cannot move forward unless all our citizens move forward. And we do it in a way that is open, fair, and transparent. To that end, Democrats have created a policy strategy we call the 4 E's: equity, economy, education, and environment. Each of our 2021 legislative priorities has a lens trained on these priorities that are at the center of Georgia's recovery and advancement. Policy initiatives that top our legislative agenda include fair elections and redistricting. In 2021, new voting districts will be drawn based on the census figures from 2020. We are introducing legislation to create a third-party redistricting commission that will remove a good deal of the politics from the redistricting process. You see, voters should choose their representatives, not the other way around. When voters' voices are silenced by gerrymandering, it is not democracy. When a blue state has a red legislature, there's a problem. District lines should not be drawn by partisan politicians. Democrats will fight hard to remove barriers to the ballot box. We will fight against those who have one goal: to retain power. No excuse absentee voting was originally introduced by Republicans, and it has proven to increase voter participation and be secure. No excuse absentee voting saves counties time and money by reducing administrative burdens. It is convenient, and if 2020 showed us nothing else, absentee voting protects our health. Make no mistake, attempts to curtail Georgia's no-excuse absentee voting is an attempt to block some from voting. That is not equitable, and we will fight those attempts. Additionally, Democrats will work to advance same-day voter registration and block attempts to place undue ID burdens on voters. We realize there are places within the voting systems that can be improved. Most of these issues are practices, not statute problems. We will work with our colleagues to fix those practices that don't work well, but we will draw the line at curtailing voter participation. If the past year has shown us nothing else, it is the need for criminal justice reform. Georgia Democrats worked with Republicans last year to pass a hate crimes bill, and we will work with Governor Kemp and our colleagues this year to repeal citizens' arrests and to reform our criminal justice system. But the work is far from over. Democrats will introduce the Georgia Justice Act, a package of legislation to protect citizens from unequal treatment under the law and at the hands of police. We cannot have two sets of rules depending on the color of your skin, where you were born, who you love, or the religion you practice. Our reform package will include body cameras, better training, demilitarization, and a repeal of Georgia's citizens' arrest. 2020 was financially devastating for families and businesses. Many lost their jobs, their homes, and their businesses. While we believe our economy will spring back once we have contained the coronavirus, many Georgians will have difficult paths back. Democrats believe we can and should help Georgians get back on their feet. One way to help is to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour. A Georgia resident making the current state minimum wage of $5.15 bring home about $1,000 per month after taxes. The average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Atlanta is $1,450. More than 90% of minimum wage workers are older than 20, and 2/3 of minimum wage workers are women. Thousands of Georgians continue to live paycheck to paycheck, and financial security has proven more and more elusive for average Georgians. Georgians need to be able to pay for basic necessities without government assistance, and we are one of only 2 states with a minimum wage below the federal standard. Companies that underpay workers are forcing them to rely on government assistance, which in turn means taxpayers pay the price. It's socializing cost and privatizing profit. At no time in our history have health care and the economy been more tied together. The COVID pandemic has shone a spotlight on this. Our hospitals are bursting at the seams. Our healthcare workers are strained. This pandemic has shown us that when we have inequality in healthcare, it impacts everyone. If one among us lacks access to a doctor, a treatment, or a test, it puts all of us at risk. Georgia ranks in the bottom 5 states for providing our citizens with health care. Georgia fell from 45th to 48th on access to health care, and 37 other states expanded Medicaid and have increased the numbers of citizens with health care coverage. It is clear Georgia has fallen behind. Today, 1.2 million Georgians remain uninsured, and many more are underinsured. The state of health care in rural counties has become progressively more dire. 8 rural hospitals have closed since 2013. Those that remain are struggling to stay afloat. The National Rural Health Association has called Georgia ground zero for rural hospital closures. Full Medicaid expansion is the path forward for Georgia. 500,000 Georgians would gain coverage, reducing the number of uninsured by half, and billions of our tax dollars would return to Georgia, saving lives, keeping rural hospitals open, and reducing costs shifting to those not on Medicaid. Last year, this simple solution which would have guaranteed better coverage to more Georgians, was met with what we believe was politics, not common sense. Republicans argue that these waivers allow the state and federal government to experiment with new health insurance schemes. In reality, however, these waivers allow us to cover fewer Georgians and provide less comprehensive coverage. Georgians deserve the best, most affordable, and most comprehensive health care available. Democrats will continue fighting for full Medicaid expansion. And we will introduce legislation to address the nursing shortage, require proper ventilation in operating rooms, expand telemedicine, and expand broadband so the communities that need telemedicine the most can have access. We are at a historical moment when Georgia must dedicate itself to combating climate change. As global temperatures and sea levels rise, countries across the world look to the U.S. to lead the efforts toward a sustainable, carbon-neutral society. And Georgia has the opportunity to advance innovative legislation to address this threat. That's why Democrats plan to protect air quality and limit vehicle pollution, restore electric vehicle tax credits, ensure that new building projects are environmentally smart, and help farmers implement water efficiency best practices so that future generations of Georgians can thrive. Last year, you saw Democrats leading the change to protect Georgians from the harmful effects of ethylene oxide emissions and coal ash. Finally, Georgia's future is only as good as how well we educate our children for the future. The pandemic has shown all of us how critical our educators are, and educational dreams will remain dreams for young Georgians unless we do something to address the rising cost of higher education. Skyrocketing college tuition costs prevent many families from sending their kids to college. If our public schools remain underfunded, future generations of Georgia's children will be unable to realize their full potential and secure the opportunities necessary to create a better life for themselves and their families. We applaud the governor for putting additional funding in the state budget to support our schools. Democrats will oppose attacks on public education, such as school vouchers and attempts to punish schools for operating virtually during a pandemic. We will continue to work to raise teacher pay by implementing a tobacco tax to discourage smoking and fund the raises. Democrats believe in putting common sense over political expediency in order to preserve and expand essential services, improve the quality of life, and build a bright future for our children. My Democratic colleagues and I envision a future in which hard-working families can afford to live without relying on government assistance. We believe it is possible to raise the quality of life for every Georgian, especially in our rural communities. We believe in a just and equitable society. We believe in a quality education for all those who want it. We believe when everyone is included, we can get to that bright future together. Thank you and good night.